Welcome to Maddie's Movie Mix, Freak Fest, Friday edition. We'll be revealing plot twists and detailed spoilers. Harsh language is not our goal, but viewer discretion is strongly advised. Introducing Maddie.
Oh, I'm Matt, by the way.
How may I be of service?
Introducing Mr. Joshua.
That's hardly important, but if it matters, you may call me Mr. Joshua.
And Josh.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Friday the 13th, and we are going to buckle up and go for a ride. But we're going to stay away from tents, stay away from cabins.
Yeah, no camping.
Yeah, no looking for weed in the weeds.
Yeah.
Like on the
weeds in the weeds.
You had said, hey, did you notice that Friday the 13th is coming up in October, and we had just started doing this, and and so we're this is great. This is like a massive challenge for me. I learned a ton. I want to absorb more from you. Like, our question of the week is going to be coming up. And that was I have to ask it this week because it's an uncomfortable question to ask, but it's very appropriate, I think, for this film franchise.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I didn't really realize I'm bad about introducing, and some people will send an email and say, hey, you didn't introduce this week, but trying to do better. They literally, this was they weren't going to ever do another one. And how do we get them to come back? The final chapter and new beginning, and then, all these things. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sean Cunningham, who is the director, and Victor Miller, who is the writer, obviously hot off of Halloween, they were trying to come up with some sort of holiday or date that they could use to kind of copycat the Halloween formula, right? Because Halloween obviously made it big,
Yeah.
And so they were thinking, well, what can we do? And then Friday the 13th came up, the title or the date for Friday the 13th came up. They're like, hey, that's perfect, So then they're trying to figure out what can people relate to, going camping in the woods. So hey, you look at that. So he kind of created this hodgepodge of things to get people scared again,
Right. And I don't think Victor, when he created this, probably had any idea how it would really go.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And I remember them saying, Friday the 13th did to campgrounds and camping as what Jaws did to beachgoers in the beach and in the water, in the ocean.
Yeah. So in the first film, one of the things I thought was kind of neat, I looked up, and it was a few years ago. I think 2 or 3 years ago. Remember in the original 1980 film, the counselor, they're called counselors, right, or whatever.
Yeah. Camp counselors.
The camp counselor, right? And she was hitchhiking to get.
Yep.
She was on a bus to their city or whatever, then hitchhiked to the camp. Well, the person that picked her up was a driver of a gas truck.
Yep.
And that was an actual company's gas truck that they had to find, we need to find this way to,
Yeah.
And so up to just a few years ago anyway, I found online, and I should have actually called the number. That would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
But they were still in business.
Wow.
Up to 3 or 4 years ago or whatever it was. I just didn't write down when that was, but yeah.
That's crazy.
I thought that was so cool. I didn't, those are some of the things that you don't really get anymore in movies.
Yeah, because it's all what's the word?
manufactured.
It's manufactured. That's a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because the telephone numbers are all 555 and stuff like that. You can't use real numbers.
Right. I think they can. If they want to.
Yeah. Well, you run the risk of getting someone's real phone number in there or something like that.
Well, right. I think that in this case with the truck, they gave them permission. I'm sure they still had a contract to sign off on it.
I don't know.
Imagine.
Maybe back then they didn't even think about stuff like that.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
1980.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, whoops, the number's on there.
One of the actresses, too, in one of these early ones, and I didn't write down which one it was, but it was so popular that she quit acting.
Oh, really? I don't know which one.
Yeah. I didn't write down which one it was. I just have here that one of the actresses decided to stop acting because she didn't realize that she'd be walking down the street and be this famous, and she was made her super uncomfortable, I guess.
I don't know which one it is.
I don't have her name,
But yeah, so like when you were saying like with the first movie, they didn't realize, or at first when they were going into this, it was just gonna be a one and done type movie.
Let's make a few bucks.
And then because they
fun.
never had it set up for a sequel, right? Like, well, how are they going to do a sequel? Because once the movie took off and was doing so well, obviously talks of sequel. Like, where can we go from here with the sequel? Because in the original, obviously the killer is Betsy Palmer, played Mrs.
Betsy
Voorhees,
Yeah.
played by Betsy Palmer.
Yeah.
And which he did not want to be in the movie originally.
Oh, really?
She's like, she didn't want anything to do with this type thing, and it's obviously grown on her over the years. But she's passed away now. But at first, she didn't want anything to do with it.
Really?
And so when they have the little boy in the lake at the end, little Jason coming out, and they're like, well, we'll just, if the mom's dead, then we'll have the Jason show up. And it's like, well, how does that work? And so that's always been kind of a weird disconnect there. It's like, so well, like maybe he never really drowned. Maybe he saw his mother get beheaded that night, and now he wants revenge and all this stuff. So that's kind of where they went with that. With part two, obviously he's full-grown adult at this point.
Yeah.
And wearing the sack over his face.
Yeah, with one eye.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that's kind of scary. That's scarier than the hockey mask in some ways.
Yeah.
Because you got this mongoloid / hillbilly looking guy in the woods, stalking you with a sack over his head, and you see what he looks like underneath it. Yeah. He's kind of. It has a different sense of freakiness to it than the hockey mask.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And the hockey mask was kind of neat because it came along later too, though, and that was kind of an iconic thing.
Well, it's been used so much now. It's been like, so it's iconic with Jason now. You can't. I mean, you can't
people
disconnect it.
Yeah, so. People don't even realize anymore that he had the bag over his head.
Yep.
Right. With the one eye hanging out. Not hanging out, but you understand.
Yep. Deformity.
Yeah. In the first one too, you remember that snake that they actually killed the snake in the first one, and all people were all mad about it, I guess, and everything. But they put the snake scene in because there was they found an actual snake in the camp.
Oh yeah.
Like there was in their house or whatever that they were staying, the actors. So that became part of the movie because that actually happened in real life. And so they put that all in there. And so they did film it purposefully after they found the snake and stuff, but it's kind of neat. One of the things too that was pretty interesting, they didn't really have like stunt actors as much back then and things like that. So some of the actors that actually did some of those, the arrow in the eye and stuff like that, they were temporary blind and stuff like that. It's kind of crazy to think about. Like, let's try this. See if it works.
They were subjected to a lot more back then than they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's actually people that get paid to do that kind of stuff separately from.
Yep.
That's wild. This, so I'm not really sure. There's talk, I guess they're going to do another one.
Yeah, now that
tell
the
me-
lawsuits. So
Yeah. Because
was it been like 10 years now? So like they were, there was a lawsuit going on between, I want to say it was between Cunningham and Victor Miller, who, and I don't remember who owned what, but there was one person owned the Friday the 13th franchise,
Yep.
but then another person owned the character Jason Voorhees.
Sure.
Right? So you can't have both in a movie together until this lawsuit was resolved.
Yep.
Right? And my cousin would probably know this better than I would. He kind of was following this whole lawsuit because he's a big Friday the 13th fan and a Nightmare on Elm Street fan and all that stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, so ultimately the lawsuit's done now, and I want to say Cunningham won, and he's got the rights to do what he wants with the character and the franchise. So now that the lawsuit's over, everything can resume now. Like you can do movies, television series, toys, merchandise, hockey masks, all that stuff is going to be back up and running. Because I know there was a pause on all that during the whole lawsuit going on. So.
In which one was it that they had it filmed, and then they had to go through some litigation as well? Was that Manhattan? Jason Takes Manhattan or something like that, or it was? No,
it would have been because I think Paramount had the rights for Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. But wasn't until the remake in 2009 was the New Line Cinemas, I think, was involved, or Flat Dunes.
Sure.
And then I'm not sure where there was a legal trouble with any of those.
There was something that was shelved, and they didn't want.
Well, I know that. Well,
and maybe
Freddy
it was
versus
just
Jason.
maybe it was just the studio that had the trouble, not the movie itself.
Freddy vs. Jason was in development hell for like 10 years or so, because after Jason Takes Manhattan, after Jason Goes to Hell, the end of the movie, you see the hockey mask, and you see Freddy's glove come up and grab it and pull it down into the dirt. So then that sparked the whole thing. Oh my God, Freddy vs. Jason's going to happen and all this stuff. And then it was set up to happen, and it was, there's several rewrites and stuff that went along with that. And at one point it was going to be Kane Hodder was going to appear as Jason, and Robert Englund was going to be Freddy, but and that seemed to be a goal for the longest time. But then when it kind of died down a bit, and then when it popped back up with a different director, and at that point Kane Hodder was out, and it was Ken Kersinger, am I saying that right? Kersinger ended up taking over for the role, and I think, from what I understand, is the studio wanted a more stark contrast between the two characters. Kane Hodder is about the same size as, or a little bit taller than Robert Englund.
Yeah.
So they wanted a taller, more intimidating Jason, is what they ended up going with.
Okay.
And Kersinger actually played Jason in one of the Friday films as just kind of like a backup stunt double. Filled in for a secondary Jason or something. One time, and I guess they wanted to go with that, but.
No, there's so much there. I mean, they've obviously been going since 1980.
Yeah.
There's so much to it, and then you get these legal troubles. Everybody wants their fingers into it.
Lawyers never make things fun. It ruins things for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, really does.
And the fans are the ones that ultimately suffer the most, because you got 10 years there where you could have been making more films, you could have been doing something else, and no.
And the other
all
thing,
about the money.
Right. And the other thing with that too is like you lose some of the fans. They get it's just a bad taste,
Yeah, and that too, and like I know these are meant to be for adults, right?
Yeah.
They're R-rated adult films, but
well, they're not adult films.
They're not adult
Almost.
films, but
actually, let's ask the question.
You go ahead and ask the question.
So, there's a couple things that these movies are known for, right, Josh?
Yep, sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Something like that. Slashing, too.
Yeah, and slashing. Yeah, gore fest.
But one of the things that they're known for is there's always nudity in them, and there's always people that get killed violently, right? Those are the two main things. So, here's the question, which of the Friday the 13th and the whole franchise, which film actually does not have any nudity in it? It's an odd question, but it's relevant to the franchise. So which film in the franchise does not have any female or male nudity in it? Not too bad. So LegitQ at Matty'sMovieMix.com. That will timestamp it so that I know who gets it first, and then I'm going to email you, not mail you. Nobody mails anything anymore. I'm going to email you 2 tickets to your local theater to go see a film. There it is.
Piggybacking off of that, so trivia with that specific movie where there was no nudity in it, after filming or when they're about to do the scene, they're like, wait a minute, there's no nudity in this movie. And then so they went and asked the actress, like, can you do this scene topless?
Yeah, I read that too.
And she's like, the contract's already been signed. I'm not taking nothing out.
Yep. And they really tried to talk her into it.
Yeah, they tried to talk her into it.
I know.
Yep.
I thought that was funny. Like, good for you.
Yeah, hold your ground.
That's right.
Stand your ground.
Yep. And
women's rights.
Yeah, because the contract that she agreed to was like, I'm not going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to get me to do it. But then they did realize it later, and they really tried to talk her into it. Yeah. Like, do some reshoots. You know, that's good. Good for her. That's something that I've never really cared much for it.
Yeah.
I don't.
And it doesn't add anything to the films, but it's gotten to the point where it's so expected now that it is like a staple that, you know, that's what people want. And hey, if you want it, whatever. But it doesn't affect me one way or another if it's there or not.
Yeah.
So I know it's like the 2009 remake gets a bad reputation. Like, a lot of people don't like it, and I'm like, what is it that you don't like about it? Because it's got all the staples that you want in a Friday the 13th film. You got the kids doing drugs is in there. You got kids having sex. There's nudity, plenty of it in the remake. You got great kills, you know, and I don't know what it is that they don't like about it. Personally, I like the remake. It's probably
Let's talk original and remake for a minute.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So
weigh those two.
Well, with the original, you got so the remake kind of meshes the first 3 movies into one movie.
Yep.
With the remake, and then you have to compare the remake next to the first 3 movies.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
no, that's a good point.
So like with the first movie, you got, you know, the mother is the killer, and you see that at the very beginning of the remake. You know, it's just kind of like just the opening scene is showing it. So they just they brush on it.
Yeah.
Because they want the star to be Jason, not Pamela Voorhees. It's Jason.
Yep.
And then
which I like, by the way.
Yeah, I liked how they did that, because they got that, was it exposition?
Yeah.
Right there, so it kind of get the backstory there, and then the first like third of the movie, he's got the sack on. Sackhead Jason's in there for part 2.
Yep.
And then the final 2/3 of the movie is the hockey mask and stuff like that, and they kind of do an artistic license with all that. They don't really have the same characters involved with the you know, so I'm trying to think what else.
I do like how they did that, just simply because you know, when they put the first movie together, they put it together. They didn't have like the plan of the sequels, and so that was a little challenging, obviously. So I like that aspect of it, but I do like they kind of shortchanged themselves there, because now you don't have any content to use. Like, what are you going to do now?
Yep.
Like,
that's exactly, like they
so on one hand I like it, and on the other hand I'm like, you just wasted like at least 2 films, maybe even 3.
With the remake or with
the remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
because they could have drug some of it out.
I think what they could have done, or maybe what they're thinking was going to be was they got the first 3 movies in the first movie, the remake.
Yep.
And then I think they might have thought this was going to be a success, so then they could have continued on with a more like the zombie Jason that is in part 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah.
They could have gone on with something like that because they kill him off in the remake. You know, he could have came back as a zombie in the sequel if there was going to be
that supernatural kind of
aspect of it.
Yeah.
And now that the franchise is going to get back on track, I know they're planning to do there's a television series going to be coming out.
Okay.
And I'm not big on TV series,
right.
You know, but whatever. But my dream would be if they were to do a Friday 13th film and have it be a period film, have it be set in the 80s, right? So everything is all flashbacks. It's a huge love letter to the 80s and the whole slasher genre.
Yeah.
And they could just go nuts with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you know, tongue in cheek. You know, it doesn't have to be so serious. You know, they could be a little bit campy in there.
Yep.
Campy.
Yeah.
So
have you seen my cup?
What's that say?
Can you see with that light?
Courage.
Have courage, be campy.
Oh, gotcha. That's funny. That's good.
I made that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, right outside.
Cool. Do you have a printer?
I have a laser.
Oh, laser. Oh, that's a machine. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Gonna get into that.
Cool.
So playing around with it.
That's cool.
So send me your design. I'll make a mug for you.
Yeah, all right. Thanks.
No, I'm serious.
I
I'm
know.
saying it. Yeah. Okay. I should show you on the way out.
Okay.
We've been having fun with it, making all kinds of different.
Yeah, that's cool.
Some serious, some fun.
Jenny might like that too for like her summer hot meat.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, we can do shirts too.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Actually, I need to.
Sweatshirts, embroidery.
My hoodie is got a hole in it, so I need to get a new hoodie made for my Sour Toys thing. So.
Yeah, perfect. Anyway, I don't know. We got off on that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what do you prefer better? You like the more humanoid or human Jason or the zombie Jason?
So let's see, which one was that? Gosh, Jason Goes to Hell.
That one. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't quite get it.
It's
So I like the whole idea of it makes sense when you have the human Jason. You know, he was clearly evil.
Yeah.
And then you do end up killing him, and then he does become the zombie Jason or whatever, supernatural Jason. I've seen some people call him both. And so it makes sense, right? Because he's already evil. We're gonna take this already, it's in people's heads that he's evil and all this kind of stuff, and so they make him that. But Jason Goes to Hell, I guess I just didn't quite get that one.
I think it's a matter of...
So that's a little turn off on that kind of...
Yeah, I think that was a matter of let's throw it at the dart and see what sticks.
Sure.
I hate that film.
That is the... So I thought I would rate these, and I had a little trouble, 1 to 12.
Yeah.
But this is definitely 12.
Yeah,
there is no question that's the worst. I didn't like it. I did not enjoy that one.
Yeah, it's not my... So,
I get the story, though, how they... the bloodline kind of thing.
I get that.
I sort of understand what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
But they did not execute
his spirit
well.
being transferred. It's just...
They did not execute.
You're wanting your fan base to go to a Friday the 13th film, and the reason they're going to the movie is to see Jason.
Yes.
They're not going to see...
Mirror.
You're not going to see the movie to see some doctor or cop killing people as Jason. That's not... No, you totally... You are not on the same level as the fans, what they want. You're disconnected. You don't...
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Yes,
I agree.
I agree 100%.
It goes back to the whole, so that movie came out in 91-ish, 90?
93 I have.
93?
Yep.
So, let's see, 2002. So 30 years later, they're still pulling this shit with the Halloween franchise. With
Yes.
the last, do you see Halloween Ends?
Sorry.
Right? So you got They didn't learn the lesson. Obviously, they're different filmmakers, different studios, whatever.
Yeah.
But they didn't learn the lesson with Jason Goes to Hell because they did practically the same thing with Halloween Ends, where okay, now they're trying to say, oh yeah, evil can change shape, so that it's going into this Corey guy or whatever the heck his name is.
I don't remember his name.
I didn't want to see a Halloween movie with Corey running out killing people. I want to see Michael Myers going around killing people.
Exactly.
It's nonsense.
And for Jamie Lee Curtis to sign on for that kind of stuff too, I'm
shame
like,
on her
what?
too.
Yes.
Shame on her. Shame on John Carpenter for selling this film or this new trilogy as it's great. We finally have a good story. John Carpenter is saying, we didn't have a good story until now. No,
It's awful.
You know what? I
Yeah.
prefer the Halloween 1, 2, and Halloween H2O.
H2O, yeah.
I'll go that route. And if I even want to go a different, choose your quest chapter book shit, right? I would do the Thorn trilogy before I even do this new
Sure.
Halloween trilogy.
Yeah. We're getting off on good stuff today.
Yeah,
I like
I'm
it.
passionate about this stuff.
I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I like if they were to try to sell a Jason as a zombie to start, or if they were to try to sell Jason and he would never die as an actual human, you can't do it.
No.
So I do like how they did that.
I do like, and so 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 was considered the final chapter, right? It was going to be the last one.
Yeah.
They were going to kill him off.
Yep.
And they brought Tom Savini back to do the special effects, and they have Corey Feldman, chopping him up at the end, and it was supposed to be the end. And then they do a 180 for we need to do another one because the box office, and then they do this new beginning. And they pull the same crap again.
Final chapter, new beginning.
And then they think it's Jason, but it ends up being some decoy. Well, then they're like, well, that didn't do very well.
Right.
Everyone didn't like that. And so part 6 comes along, and what is his name now? McLaughlin, right?
Yes.
Tom McLaughlin. And he comes on board to do Jason Lives. And I really like that they picked Tom for that movie because he was a huge fan of like the gothic horror stuff, the old school Hammer horror stuff, and so him doing the whole rod into the chest and the lightning and stuff, it kind of brings Jason back, kind of like the Frankenstein route.
Yes.
I really do love that.
That was I do too. Yep. And how they had Corey Feldman like
that would have been part 5.
At the beginning of 6, though, isn't he at the beginning of 6 where he sees him in the grave?
No, that's
that is the end.
That's new beginning. He's having a nightmare, and then he wakes up, and that's the other actor from.
Oh
part
yeah,
5.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Tom Matthews plays.
Oh yeah, the
Jarvis in this one.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say now? Oh, and the fact that they brought him back as a zombie like that, they totally, that was their out, right? So then now they could make as many of these as they want because he's undead. You could kill him all the time and he just can keep coming back. And I think that's where they broke. I don't want to say broke the mold, but they reinvented it at that point. There was no supernaturalness, give or take a little bit with him coming out of the lake and at the beginning of the very first movie. But it's like that's still kind of blurry to me. But there's still some supernaturalness to that. But here you're full on supernatural at this point.
Right. So the way I took that, rewatching it, the way I took that. So I don't remember when I watched it the first time. I was a teenager, probably 14 or 15 when I watched the first Friday the 13th.
Okay.
I wasn't young as you.
I don't even know how old I was when I watched this.
I mean, I remember as a teenager watching it, and maybe I was a younger teenager, but so the way I took it was like this 11-year-old kid or 10 or whatever he was supposed to be, I don't remember, but he almost drowned. He got out of the lake on the other side or whatever, and so he's really scared.
Yeah.
And he doesn't come back around and kind of swimming over in.
So
that's how I kind of interpreted it.
My
Supernatural.
my logistical thinking of it is like, you know, like you're watching it, it's like, well, the mom must have been mistaken. Maybe he didn't really drown.
Right, that's what I mean.
You know,
like
but he just got lost in the woods or something like that.
exactly.
And 'cause
Like he
don't,
came out of the lake on the way the other side or something.
because I can't remember which one it is, and maybe it doesn't say this, but I thought I remember them saying something like they never found the boy's body or whatever.
Oh, maybe they did. Yeah.
And something like that. So
Oh, yes, they did.
that I'm thinking that that she was just assumed that he drowned and couldn't find the body, and so that's what made her go crazy. But then he really was alive, and then he saw her get beheaded, and it made him go crazy. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's kind of fun to be able to do that now, you know, after having all these other movies and their canon is not sound.
There's one term that I thought was really cool. I can't remember where I heard it. This was years ago, though. But when Kane Hodder took over as Jason for part 7, New Blood, which is my favorite look of Jason, by the way, is
Totally.
The term Terminator zombie had stuck in my head.
Really?
And someone had said that somewhere. He's like a Terminator zombie. I was like, that's perfect. He's a zombie, but he's also like Terminator.
Yeah.
You know, it's like perfect mesh. And I loved with Kane Hodder. It really is too bad that they didn't keep him for more movies down the road, because just
he seemed like a neat guy too, reading about him what he added to the character.
He was already a stuntman before becoming Jason, so like doing the stunts on Jason himself, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked the personality that he brought to the character, like the way he's like heavy breathing. You know, you watch Kane's Jason and you just look like you can tell he's pissed off. This Jason's pissed, you know, and he's gonna.
He knows how to do that body language.
Yeah, he's
stuff.
Like, you know, breathing, or you know, and he's very intimidating.
Yeah,
you know, and not saying that someone like it was Ted White, I think was one of the Jasons in part 4. He was terrifying too. I mean, and he was actually. I remember in one of the. I want to say it's Crystal Lake Memories. If you ever want to, like, get a bunch of trivia on these movies, watch the Crystal Lake Memories documentary. Okay. It's a pretty long documentary because it's going through all the movies, but they talk about pretty much everything. And one thing they were talking about with part 4 was Ted White. I guess there's a scene where he has he takes a nurse or whatever, he slams her up against the wall or whatever, and she the hat on her nurse cap hurt her back of her head, and she's like telling him, "Oh, watch out," you know, and he's like, "Yeah." He was so in character that he was like aggressively doing his scenes, and it's like, well, you know, you just don't need to do it so hard, you know. So I like his Jason too. So like,
it is pretty cool that you can see the different actors playing. You can just their body language, what they bring to those nuanced pieces. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
And it is something too. Like the reason I ask about like if you like the human Jason versus the zombie Jason. The zombie Jason seems like a more indestructible force. You know. Yeah. Almost like a force of nature almost.
Yeah.
Whereas the human Jason. He's still terrifying because, like, the human Jason, in scenes, he'll be running, like, literally running after you. And the zombie Jason's just like, you know,
he just
walking,
not stop.
Yeah,
you can't stop him
until part 8 where he starts teleporting. It's like, how the hell does he get from here to there? You know, this other the victim's running, and all of a sudden he's in front of him.
Right.
It's like, well, you can teleport on cue now.
I know.
Like, what the?
I know.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So you said you had your top kills, and
yes,
and I'm dying to hear some of that, man.
So, have you watched all of them yet? Or
I have watched all of them.
Okay, so
I mean, I might have fallen asleep for 10 minutes here and there on a couple of them, but yes.
So, like with my top 10 kills, I'll go down 10, 9, 8. So like number 10 would be in final chapter with Crispin Glover.
Yes.
Where he's like, "Where's the goddamn corkscrew?" And then he nails him with the corkscrew.
Yeah.
And then he gets him with the hatchet in the head.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes.
Number 9 is in the remake where after he kills the guy on the boat and the girl's underwater. And originally the way it was written was he was supposed to wait her out in the water. He was just going to stand there and wait her out until she just drowned from exhaustion.
Okay.
That's
lame.
Kind of lame. So then they changed it to her under the dock hiding, and then all of a sudden machete through the dock.
There, yeah.
And then she drops down in the water.
Yep.
I like that one. Number 8 would be from part 6, where he kills the girl, her and the one guy in the car with the rod, and then he jumps on top of her. Does it, and then you see the MasterCard floating in the water as it goes by.
Yep.
No, another one from part 6 is
I forgot about that.
Don't leave home without
the American Express.
Or American Express, that's right.
Yeah. Because back then, too, they did that in Batman. The first Batman, they made a whole big deal about American Express.
Was it the first one, or I think it was
80 it was Michael
89?
Keaton's first one, 89.
Okay.
Yeah, the very first
I know they
one,
they make a joke about that in it was Batman and Robin, where they have the bat credit card.
Yeah. No, but that started in 89.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's probably why they were home and going back to that.
Yeah, because the guys, the thieves, they were up on the roof or whatever, and they were rummaging through the purse. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And then
he says
like,
it.
Don't leave home without it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So another one from part 6, number 7, is the sheriff, the backbreaker scene, where he grabs him and he's pushing him back, and you hear like
and then
number 6 is in the remake is the sleeping bag roast at the very beginning.
That was unique.
Yeah, that's something that I've never seen before. Obviously, there's another one in there with the sleeping bag kill from part 6.
Right.
Where they're like, how do y'all do that? And it's like, that's pretty good. That's putting her in there and roasting her.
You know, the one that
with the
is that in your list?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we'll wait on that. All right.
That's why I did it. And then so number 5 is from part 8, the scene where the I can't remember his name now, but they're on top of the roof, and the boxer, and he's punching him. He's punching him, and he's backing up and punching him, and he's out of breath. He's like, give it your shot, and you boom,
right.
Head goes flying off into the dumpster. I like that one. And then number 4 would be Kevin Bacon's death with the arrow through the neck.
Yeah.
Number 3 is from part 3 with the scene where he takes that guy and he squishes his head and his eye pops out in 3D, right?
Did you watch that in 3D?
I have not got to see it in 3D.
That would be cool.
I wouldn't mind seeing that in 3D.
Yeah.
I'm not big on 3D.
I know.
I think it's a gimmick, but something like that, like some of the older horror movies that I never got to see in the theater with the 3D, I would like to see that in 3D.
I think that old 3D, they did a better job almost than some of the newer stuff I've seen.
I can't compare.
Right. Yeah.
Number 2 is the New Blood sleeping bag. Right.
Yes.
Most people probably say that should be number 1 because that is a good one. But I do really love Jason X. The movie sucks. I'm not.
Yeah, the movie's terrible.
I'm not defending it in any way, but the scene where he gets up and he takes the girl and he shoves her down in the what's it called, the
where it freezes the nitrous oxide or whatever it is,
takes her and then smashes her head on the counter and it shatters. I would say that's probably my favorite kill. In all the movies. And the movie sucks. Don't get me wrong there, but
yeah, it does.
That kill is my favorite kill.
So the sleeping bag on the tree.
Yep.
That was actually like a childhood imagination that's how they got that.
Really?
The director or the writer, somebody had if he was gonna kill his sister as a little kid, that's how he would do it. That's how it got in the movie.
I never heard that.
Yeah.
I did hear that because the way they originally filmed that was he took her and he smashed her up against the tree like several times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And then left her for dead.
Yep.
Well, the MPAA was like, no.
Okay.
No, and the director even said that he's gone on record. He says, the MPAA raped my movie, is what he said. Like they cut out tons of stuff that he wanted in the final cut, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But and Kane Hodder actually said he thinks it actually ended up being more effective by just doing the one swing down, than doing the multiple swings.
Yeah.
Because it shows your brute force.
Right.
Bam,
Yeah.
You know?
You're done. Yep.
And
Yep.
I think Kane might be right on that. And sometimes these things happen.
It worked. I mean, that's a good scene.
Yeah. Sometimes these things happen in a way that is like that silver lining is I think it turned out better than it would have been doing multiple whacks at the tree. In my opinion.
Exactly. So I had top to bottom. I mean, I really think that Jason Goes to Hell was my bottom. I mean, Jason X was also terrible, but that one was just horrible. I did really struggle because I understood like why they did certain things in them to kind of keep that franchise going.
Yeah,
and
they're trying to do something different.
Yeah,
fresh. I get that.
Some of it I was like, why, and so to rate them, that was kind of hard.
So we're at,
like, what was my favorite?
I'm trying to think. So that would have been number 9, right? So when you reach number 9 in a franchise, it's like you're going in it. The cards are stacked against your favor, right? You're going in it. It's like, what are you going to bring to this? And then a lot of times these directors, it ultimately boils down to what the producers want, right? I mean, the producer, you could have a solid director, you could have a solid writer, and they could present an awesome script. They could present something completely amazing, and the suits say, no, we're not doing that. The budget doesn't allow for it. We're going to do this. We want this. We like this idea better, and they're the ones. They're
they're writing
the check. You're kind of stuck there. And me being an artist, I would have a really bad time working in a profession like that, where like if I'm an artist and I have something that I'm trying to present artistically to an audience, and then someone that's the one that's paying the bills saying no, I don't like it, and it's like I'd have a hard time, what am I doing?
Yeah, I ran into a lot of my story and the public speaking that I do. I ran into that a lot with that. People, no, you need to do it this way because that's how it's done. Yeah. Like, it's like, well, it's not your story. Yeah. It's not your personality. You might do it textbook or whatever and stuff. And I don't know. Did you see the one I released on YouTube? I have a full school assembly. Seen that one yet. Yeah. And stuff. And I have 60 some compliments on it. I mean, it's a unique thing. And while I'm not specifically an artist in that fashion, I understand, like, you have to do things in your
you gotta
personality.
Yes,
you have to, yes, exactly. Yep. And if you're going to do it for a purpose, or you want to present it to somebody, you have to do it your way. Yep. And when all that stuff gets in the way, and and there was times that I went and did things with these big wigs, so to speak, 7 or 8 different times, and they're like, well, we don't like that, you got to do this. Well, what do you think I should do then? Well, they wouldn't even tell you, right? Like,
they don't know, they just don't like what they presented them.
So then you try something different and things, but ultimately where I'm going with this is the audience said we want more Jason, right? Yeah. And so they kept trying to come up with more Jason, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
I think it's like you see some of these franchises, Friday the 13th, Leprechaun, Hellraiser. Once they've hit the final frontier, once they hit space, it's like you probably
Fast and Furious, same thing, right?
Yeah. So it's because they've got Jason X is in space, they've got Leprechaun in space, they've got Hellraiser.
So I gotta say, I'm already super excited about. We're just getting started on this Freak Fest Friday stuff, and I've never seen Leprechaun.
Oh, really?
Never. I know what it is.
So I would start out with the first one, obviously, and then if you like the first one, it's campy. 90s horror, 2 ain't bad, 3 ain't bad, but once you start getting into the hood and into the space, you just don't. Nah, not for me. Yeah, I don't mind the first 3 movies. They're fun to watch every once in a while. Guilty pleasure, but
Yeah.
obviously they're not. I want to list them in my top 50 or anything like that, but it's just I'll throw it on St. Patrick's Day or something
Sure,
like that.
yeah.
But it's nothing that special. I mean, I like Warwick Davis, the actor that plays Leprechaun.
Yeah, I've never seen any of them, like any parts of them even.
Yeah,
I've seen, I've probably seen him in passing on TV somewhere or something, but that was like
it was Jennifer
10
Aniston's
seconds.
first movie.
Oh, really?
Yep,
Wow.
She was like washed her hands of it, like she didn't want anything to do with it.
No
after
kidding.
a while, when she was for a while there, she denied it all. But I think she's kind of warmed up to it a little bit. Warwick Davis, I think, actually called her out on it on social media years later.
Funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's your roots. It's where you came from.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
if it's your
change
first
it.
movie, it's for everyone. A lot of actors start out in horror movies.
Yeah.
I don't know why people need to be ashamed of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a really bad movie, Leprechaun's not that.
Right.
It's not great. It's not. I wouldn't say good. It's fun.
Yeah.
I would put it in the same vein of like Critters.
Sure.
Something like that. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's just really cheesy.
But, yeah.
How you can't take it
That
seriously.
have courage. Be campy stuff, right?
Yeah, you can't take a leprechaun seriously.
No, exactly. Right.
So it's just meant to be fun.
Yeah.
So
I like it. What else is in your list? You had a list. I'm excited to hear some of the other things.
I did my top kills. I thought you were going to list what order you liked all the movies.
Well, I that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know how to do that because I like them for different reasons, right?
They all do
you
have their
can't-
pros and cons.
They do, and so I guess if I would have to say, the top 5, I'd almost have to count them down from 5 to 1, just simply because when you do. One of the things that I really like about James Bond, and I think I've told you this before, is they really push the movies out like one a year in the 60s.
Yeah,
every
it's
year,
pretty busy.
But yet they really had it together.
Yeah.
They really did cool things in it. So it would be hard for me to say what are my top 5 James Bond for some of those same reasons.
Yeah.
And so when you have this,
you kind of have to like this one. Part
no,
6.
I do, right?
Because of the opening.
Because it is, yes.
The opening with
yes,
the James Bond opening.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, absolutely. So there, like I say, there's just so many different things to them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really hard. I would have to say though, number 1 would be the original.
Okay.
Just because I appreciate the base of almost anything, and just out of the appreciation factor.
Yeah.
That gives a ton of score for me.
And that's a lot of
because they
people,
take those risks, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and a lot of people will say you can't beat the original, and the original is definitely in a lot of people's top 1 or top 3 at least.
yeah. And
I don't even have it on my top 5.
no, that's fine, and I get that too, right?
But then see,
I
didn't
kind of
grow
have
up
more
with it.
nostalgic kind of a person,
that
right?
part, yeah,
And
'cause
so
you're-
that's
you're
why
older.
it scores so high for me.
Yep, and like I was saying, like I obviously 1980 was a year before I was born.
Yeah.
I watched these movies when I was younger, but I never really cared much. I mean, this maybe sounds sacrilegious for a lot of people. That well, you don't like the original. I don't. It's not that I don't like the original.
Yeah.
I respect the original.
Yeah.
It's just not on my favorite list.
Yeah.
I prefer Jason.
Yeah.
If I have to choose between not seeing the killer in the movie at all,
Right.
or see Jason,
Yes.
I'm picking Jason.
Yes.
And a lot of these movies, I'm rooting for Jason half the time.
Right.
A lot of these people are stupid.
Yes.
And-
they are stupid, aren't they? Right.
So,
But number 2, I'll go. So 1 would be the original.
Okay.
It just would have to.
yeah,
But number 2 would be the remake.
okay.
That would be my number 2.
That is that's my top 3.
So and then I would have to say when they do in 6, when they do transition him to the zombie, that they did that very well.
Yeah.
And for 1986 or whatever it was.
Yep.
It's
another-
just it's
like
good.
like you were saying, Bond was like one movie every year in the 60s. That is pretty damn close to
They
this.
did. I was just looking 80, 81, 82, 84, 85, 86, and then 88.
And 89.
And
so there's 2 years in there where they weren't.
89, yep.
That's crazy.
So, no, they did, absolutely. So, yeah, so I don't know. Those would be my top 3 for sure.
So, for me, starting with number 5 would be Freddy vs. Jason.
Okay. That is pretty good. That's fun.
It's a fun movie. I like that I finally got to see the two on screen together, even though it wasn't Kane Hodder.
Yeah.
I would have liked to be Kane Hodder, but it is what it is. It's the last time we saw Robert Englund as Freddy.
Yep.
So I like that.
Yep.
The production value is obviously great. Looks good.
Yes.
The movie looks good.
And he almost didn't do this because of his age, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't that?
I think he was always on board to do it, but
okay.
I
thought I read something, or maybe he had a harder time doing it
might have
because
been
of
a
his
hard
age
time.
or something like
Yeah.
that. I remember something reading. I mean, there's a lot of movies to read about.
You can tell it's an older England though, because just if you look at the older Nightmare on Elm Street films, you can see how skinnier he is, or more gaunt, I guess I should say. Really skinny guy, but he's packed on a few pounds since it was in 2003 when that came out. So he's a little bit older.
2003, yeah.
But I mean, I didn't really care much. There's some things I didn't care much for, like the Freddy died by fire, Jason by water. How can we use that? The hell, Jason's never been afraid of water.
Right.
Right. I don't know where they came up with that.
Yeah, I know.
That's whatever. But
it kind of logically makes sense that he would be, but they never had done it before.
If they're playing off that sense that he's still stuck in that childhood intellect mind, is kind of what they're playing off of with Freddy vs. Jason. Number 4 is Part 7, The New Blood, just mostly because of Kane Hodder and the look of Jason. It's the best look in Jason, in my opinion. Number 3 is the remake. That, like I said earlier, it has all the staples there. I think Derek Mears did a good frightening Jason.
Yeah.
I enjoyed all the fodder, I guess should say, like all the even though like they're stupid and college kids or whatever, they were enjoyable to watch. I didn't the females in it were attractive.
Yeah.
Is it Trent? Is a total asshole. But I like him. I don't like him, but I like the character that he's such a dick.
Yes.
And he gets his comeuppance in the end. I like that. And number 2 is the final chapter.
Yep. Okay.
With Corey Feldman and
that one is pretty good.
Crispin Glover and they brought Tom Savini back to kill off Jason and all that stuff. And then my number 1 pick is Jason Lives Part 6.
Really?
Yeah. It's just, it has all this, like, it feels the most 80s to me.
For sure, and it's a good transition.
And I like the gothic horror stuff. I like the undead Jason the best versus the human Jason, even though I don't mind the human Jason. It's just I like the zombie Jason better. I like the final showdown between him and Tommy Jarvis and the boat. That whole climax scene is great. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. Whew. This is good. What else you got?
And then I also listed my top 3 favorite Jason deaths. So how Jason actually dies in the movie. Number 3 is the remake where they get him in the shredder.
Oh yes,
I like that. Final chapter where Corey gets him with the machete in the head, and then he falls down and his head slides down the blade. I like that. And then obviously Part 6, like the climax with the watery grave and chaining him down there and stuff. Those are my top 3.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't really die in that, they just
is
chains him down
hibernating.
There.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's good stuff. What else? There's so much.
Yeah. I also I had listed like box offices on each one. The most money, or the one that made the most money was Freddy vs. Jason. But I think that's, I mean, you got both parties coming in on that one. You got fan base of Nightmare on Elm Street and fan base of Friday the 13th. So I don't know if that's really fair to compare those two or compare that with the other ones. Otherwise,
do you think the justification of who won in that one? Do you think that was?
So years ago, before the movie came out, there was a rumor going around that it was going to be a 50-50 thing. So. Kind of like what they did with Clue, the movie Clue back in 85-ish, is there's different ways the movie ends, right? And that was going to be split in different theaters, so you didn't know who the killer was going to be at the end of Clue, right? It could have been this, it could have been that, whatever. And then on the home video, they have all of them listed. You know? There was a rumor going around that was going to be how it was going to be for Freddy vs. Jason was 50% of the viewings was going to be Jason wins, 50% of viewings was going to be Freddy wins. Well, then that never happened. We got what we got, you know? And I suppose they did it to appease both fan bases, because you got Jason carrying Freddy's head out in the water, making it look like Jason won. But then at the end, you also get Freddy winking.
Yep.
So Freddy won. Right. You know, so you can leave it up to the viewers or audience's decision on who actually won that.
Right.
You know. I guess I'm a bigger Jason fan, so I think of Jason being the winner of that. Just because Freddy's winking don't mean shit. He's got no head, or he's got no body.
No body.
You know?
I know, and that's kind of the way I view it too.
Yeah.
But I've heard too that he's actually still in the dream world.
Still in the dream world.
Won, you know.
It could be however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
But
because that's definitely a debate. Like people like. You see online and stuff like
they definitely, and with that being the last one, that was number there was that, and then the remake that came out later.
The remake would have been 12.
So, or no, the remake was 2009, I think, or 12, number 12
would be number 12. Yep.
Yeah. So I really would like to see them, even if they just did one more movie, like if they got one more in there in them, have it set in the 80s. You know, period film 80s, go full homage to the 80s genre or decade, and you know, have fun with it. You know.
Yeah.
He could be human Jason, zombie Jason. I would prefer zombie Jason.
Yeah.
But because you could do more with it. You know, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I like that arc though, right? Like how that actually makes sense.
And it doesn't cheapen like. Part 6, in my opinion, doesn't cheapen final chapter, because he really did die.
Yes,
there.
Absolutely.
They did kill Jason.
Yes.
They're not lying.
No, they
didn't go back on their
perfectly.
word. He died.
Yes.
But someone got the brilliant idea, bring him back as a zombie.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, now we can make 17 more of these movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the fun things too was the Doublemint Gum Girls.
Oh,
twins.
yeah. Is that that was part 4.
Yeah.
Right,
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun. There's a lot of just so many fun, cool things.
And
but
Crispin Glover, dead fuck.
Right.
I'm going to put your information in my computer, Teddy boy.
Yeah. That was funny.
Yeah.
Should we wrap it or keep going?
We can wrap it up.
All right. We've got probably an hour's worth here.
That's good.
That's good. That's fun.
Franchise worthy of an hour.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you could do so many different things. You could
well, like I said, that Camp Crystal Lake Memories or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember how many hours it is, but it's a good 7 hours, maybe 7 hours. Actually, I can look it up.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to know. While he's looking that up, we're going to tell you where you can find us. You can find us on YouTube at Maddie's Movie Mix, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts. Those are the two most popular places. The Apple Podcast, Maddie's Movie Mix, you just do a search for that, and you're going to find us. And we appreciate your comments and your stars and your likes and all those other things. And, of course, text it to your friends. Tell us what you think of the Friday the 13th franchise, or what specific one you like the best.
What's your favorite Friday the 13th?
Exactly. So, and you can also do that at LegitQ at Maddie'sMovieMix.com, or make sure you leave a comment for us. And how long is it?
6 hours and 40 minutes.
Nice.
And we just scratched the surface. And
I know.
And we were just talking about preferences of what we like and stuff. They dig more into like actual trivia stuff and
well,
a lot of
I've
stuff
heard too
behind
that
the scenes
a
stuff.
lot of the actors are doing like interviews in the documentary. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Corey.
I did hear about that.
Corey Feldman hosts it.
Oh, okay. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Nice.
have like they have Kane Hodder talking on there, Ted White, the directors of each movie, and it starts out with 1980 with the original, and it just works their way through all the movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's definitely worth checking out if you want to learn a lot more. It's like you say you want to learn stuff from me. I was like, I'm directing you to watch that because
okay,
you're gonna learn a lot more from that than from me. I
Right.
can't even begin to siphon all that, to you.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, hey, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
I may be as pretty as an angel, but I sure as hell ain't one.